Sancho to Man United, Erling Haaland to Chelsea. Did someone forget to tell Dortmund that football didn't come home? What's up guys, and welcome to FPL Today, where we're on a noble mission to make FPL fun again, because the past 2 seasons and the past year or so haven't been the easiest. So hopefully we're turning around the corner and we can start having fun again. So go tell your girlfriend, your wife, your sister or your missus how important non-penalty XG per 90 is, and watch their brains die just a little bit inside. That will help me with the YouTube algorithm, as will hitting that like button quickly. And in the comments down below, let me know what price you think Jadon Sancho is going to come in at on the FPL game. And when the price is revealed, if you got it spot on, I will highlight you in a future video so the world can bask in your greatness. But today we are here to talk about FPL ownership, the most owned players in each position, goalkeeper, defence, midfield and forward, and whether we need to be putting them into our first FPL drafts for game week 1 and the effects that they might have on our FPL seasons if we choose to ignore them. Now, of course, this could change with transfers coming into the game, but we're discussing it as of Friday around 2 o'clock. This video should be up live at 7, and we're going to try and post a video 7 o'clock Monday, Wednesday and Friday every week until the Premier League season starts. So we start off with the goalkeepers, and the most owned goalkeeper in the game is Emiliano Martinez from Argentina and Aston Villa at 39.4%. and that's at 5.5 million. Now, Martinez had an absolutely fantastic season last year, but of course last year he was at 4.5 million. And to be honest, I think Martinez is one of those picks that a lot of the casuals have picked. You know, those people that don't take FPL as seriously as us guys. And whilst he is a great goalkeeper and he is definitely going to get save points galore, I don't think he's necessarily the best pick anymore at that price point. The best pick that the community seems to believe in is, of course, Sanchez from Brighton Hove Albion at 27.3 million and at 4.5 million. There's not many good 4.5 million or lower pound goalkeepers in the game right now, but Sanchez seems to be the standout option for a lot of us. Compared to Martinez last season, he didn't have anywhere near as many saves. Martinez having 142 saves and 15 clean sheets, compared to Sanchez's 66 with 10 clean sheets. However, Sanchez probably has established himself as the #1 goalkeeper at Brighton now, and with him still coming in at that nice price point, he is going to be very, very popular indeed. As for Foster, we're not necessarily going to talk about him too much, purely because I think a lot of people are picking him just because his £4 million price tag, and he did lose his starting place to Bachmann in that Watford side last season in the Championship. But we also have Edison and Schmeichel coming into consideration, and they are priced at 5 million and 6 million apiece, with 11.2% ownership for Schmeichel and 9.1% for Edison. Now, to be honest, Edison's going to get you those clean sheet points and is a nailed way into that Manchester City defence. 19 clean sheets last season. Schmeichel with 11 clean sheets last season and 88 saves. So that is more than Edison and Sanchez, who had 66 apiece. To be honest, I don't like, in FPL anyway, spending a lot of money on my goalkeepers. So Sanchez is likely to be my first choice, and potentially a Brighton Hove Albion double up is under consideration because of how cheap their defence is in the FPL game. But I can definitely see the appeal of Martinez, highest point scoring goalkeeper last season. But to be honest, hopefully Martinez won't do enough to really hurt our rank in the FPL game this year. We now move on to defenders, and this is where, of course, it starts to get more interesting. Defenders, midfielders and forwards is where we can really make the difference. So we're looking at defenders, and the most owned defender is Luke Shaw at 44%. You thought I was going to say Trent, didn't you? But it is Luke Shaw. Massive ownership at 5.5 million. He, of course, did have a fantastic season last year and has had a fantastic Euros. Now, the reason he's under such consideration is, of course, Shaw did have 72 key passes last year with 7 big chances created and 5 assists in total. Compare that to Trent, who is highly owned as well at 7.5 million. He's 27.2% owned. He had 77 key passes with 8 assists from 14 big chances created. Shaw had 1 goal compared to Trent's 2, but both of these are standout options. And to be honest, I'm probably going to have both of these in my starting 11, purely based off the fact that if Shaw has a great start to the season, clean sheets and assists, at 44% owned, if I don't own him, I'm behind 44% of the players in the game. Now, of course, his ownership is going to change before the Premier League starts, but that ownership is scary. What's also scary is Fofana at 4.5 million. There's not much underlying stats to consider here, but 26.6% owned for a 4.5 million pound defender. You might as well have him in your side. So you're pretty much looking at 3 of my 5 defenders right there. Now, of course, you can play without being scared of ownership, but you run the risk of falling behind the pack very early. And I want to try and not have a rank of 2 or 3 million in game week 2, 3 or 4, like I have done previously when I've gone against the crowd in lots of areas. Potentially where you could go against the crowd, although some people have already made these moves, is going with the likes of Diaz. Now, Diaz is 26% owned, so that's about a quarter of the game, but £6 million for a Man City defender. The fixtures aren't necessarily fantastic, but we know Diaz is as nailed on as an outfield player can be for Man City. So Diaz is definitely an option, but he doesn't have much in attacking threat. Although he did have 14 shots on goal last season, all from inside the box, scoring just the 1 goal, but he also got 1 assist. And there is, of course, Digne. Now, Digne is highly owned because Everton have some decent starting fixtures, 23.1%. However, with Benitez coming in, while I do believe they will shore up that defence, do I want to take that punt so early on a player that's under a 0.25% owned? I'm not sure I will over the likes of Shaw, who at Man United has good fixtures and also has a bit more consistency recently, and nothing has changed at Man U other than some additional signings to the club. I think Shaw's just a safer pick. If you can afford a third £5.5 million or higher defender, then I would consider Digne, but I think Shaw is the one I will be leaning towards. By the way, if you want access to the data that I'm using on all of my videos this season, do go check out Fantasy Football Hub, top link in the description, where I'm getting all my juicy stats from to help you in the FPL game. We move on to midfielders, and you're not going to be surprised by the top 2. Of course you're not going to be. It is, of course, Mohamed Salah, nearly always the most owned midfielder in the game at the beginning at 49.7%. Takes a brave man to go without Salah. Of course, he does take up a lot of your transfer budget, but 49.7%. And who knows, by the time the season starts, that could be over 50%. Bruno Fernandes isn't too far behind with 41.1% ownership at 12 million. And you just have to look at their points from last season to understand why. Fernandes, 244 points, with Salah at 231 points. Now, Sancho coming in could be a viable option instead of Fernandes, but it'd have to come in at significantly cheaper because he's not proven in the Premier League. And I actually think Sancho coming in, and it looks like it's very close to being confirmed, could help Fernandes as far as his goal-scoring exploits. Now, a lot of his goals last season were, of course, penalties, but he still had 121 shots. That's only 5 less than Mohamed Salah last season, which, if you actually think about it, is pretty incredible. We also have shots on target, 52 for Salah, 51 for Fernandes. The only difference is Fernandes took more shots from outside the box, which is because, in my eyes, he was trying to create for his teammates. Perhaps with Sancho there, he will be able to get into the box more often and score more goals in open play. And throughout the entire season, he only scored 4 less goals than Mohamed Salah and actually got 8 more assists. So Bruno Fernandes, to me, along with Salah, is a must-have for the start of the season. Coming in third is Jack Grealish at 37%. And of course, at £8 million, he could potentially be a Man City midfielder if he's not an Aston Villa midfielder by the start of this season. Am I interested in Grealish? With that ownership, very. And if he's at Aston Villa, if Aston Villa can have a good season like they did last year, and Grealish can stay fit, he is, of course, a fantastic player. And I'm very scared of that ownership. Going to be difficult to fit all 3 of these midfielders in, and of course if he goes City, he could be a rotation issue, but at the moment Jack Grealish is very, very popular. And we've got one person who I expected to be here, and then another that I'm a bit baffled about. Rafinha is the one I expected at 6.5 million. He represents great value, which is why I am interested in him, and at 24.9%, almost a quarter owned in the game, I think he is a great option. You could, of course, look at Harrison. We're waiting to see what players Leeds do bring in, though. And, of course, Bamford is a viable option as well, who I'm sure we'll be talking about later. but Rafinha showed class and quality at times last season, and we expect him to do more than his 6 goals and 10 assists last season, in which he only played 30 games in. But then the player I wasn't expecting to see here, and that is Mason Mount. 21.1% owned at 7.5 million. In a Chelsea midfield that, don't get me wrong, Mount is a quality midfielder and they've got a lot of talent there. It's kind of a rotated midfield and Mount is probably the most nailed on, but with his underlying stats not reading that great, I don't really feel like he is better value than the likes of Grealish, who's only 0.5 million more expensive, and Rafinha, who is significantly cheaper, £1 million so. If we compare him to Rafinha, he managed to get the same amount of goals, 6 goals, but he actually got 3 less assists. He had more shots on goal, 82 to 67, but a greater percentage of those came from outside the box, with Mount only having 36 shots inside the box compared to Rafinha's 44. And with that £1 million, of course, you can upgrade elsewhere, so I'm surprised to see Mount so highly owned, but you never know, I've been proven wrong before. And finally, we're going to be looking at the forwards, and I wasn't expecting this guy to be top. I was expecting him to be involved in the top 5, but at 35.7% owned, 6.5 million, Ivan Toney is the highest owned forward in the game. Now, if you watch the Wildcats, which is of course a channel I'm part of, I said I'd probably ignore Toney, but at that ownership, it's getting more difficult to do so. As well as at 6.5 million, he is at least £1 million cheaper than most of the strikers that I'm considering. Ivan Toney last year, and this is of course in the Championship, had 33 goals and 10 assists from 3 shots per game and 1.1 key passes per game. Now, those are some great underlying stats, of course. However, he is making a step up into the Premier League, and I'm a bit concerned about new strikers to the Premier League. But Bamford last season did absolutely brilliantly, and Watkins was also coming from the Championship to the Premier League last season and also did well. So Toney might be worth a punt at the beginning of the season, especially if you need to save some cash somewhere. The next two were more obvious to me, and that's Watkins at 33.3% at 7.5 million. And he had a great season last year, managing to get 14 goals in total from a non-penalty XG of 15.27. So I definitely like the looks of Watkins. And Calvert-Lewin had a great start to the season. However, he kind of tailed off in the second half of the season. He actually had 16 goals from non-penalty XG of 17.53. Interested in both of these, but then we get to a big concern for me, and that is the 4th highest owned player is Harry Kane at 28.5%. We have to understand that Harry Kane had an amazing season last year. He managed to get 23 goals from a non-penalty XG of 16.81. Those are fantastic stats there. He also managed to get 14 assists. So if he is on form and fired up and willing to play, he is potentially as must own as Mohamed Salah and Bruno Fernandes. 242 points last year. He is an incredible player, and if he goes to Man City, potentially those numbers could only increase. So his ownership is a big concern for me. No matter what club he is at, he could really hurt us at 28.5% owned. And then finally, we have Bamford at 17.2%. I think the reason for his ownership being so low is his 8 million price tag. But we need to remember this is the guy that had more shots on goal than Watkins and Calvert-Lewin, managing 17 goals, which was more than both of them as well, and also getting 11 assists, which is also more than Calvert-Lewin and Watkins. His non-penalty XG was 17.52, which is slightly lower than Calvert-Lewin's 17.53, but he did do better overall throughout the season, getting 194 points and pretty much nailed on as a starter, a bit like Watkins, whereas Calvert-Lewin was a bit injury prone. So definitely some choices and headaches for us in that forward lineup, because of course we can only pick 3 of them, and it's going to be very difficult to get Harry Kane into a side if you've already got Bruno Fernandes and Mohamed Salah. So guys, the FPL season is only a month away. Check out some of the videos on the playlist in the description down below, and hopefully you have already told me in the comments down below what Jadon Sancho's price will be when the FPL gods reveal the price to us all. And with that being said, make sure to be back here 7 PM Monday for the next FPL video here on FPL Today. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.